Let's talk self-driving.
We've been dating for a little over a year now.
Yep.
14 months.
Other people might not see us as normal when we go out and we get coffee. You know, we get the looks and we get the stares and we get the questions. But to us, this is just our relationship, our normal life.
My parents didn't know that I was blind until I was 3 months old.
Photo as an infant.
I went to the preschool at the Foundation for Blind Children, and they taught me how to navigate my world from the time I was a baby up until I was an adult. They were a part of my life.
Brophy Jesuit College Prep.
I became a history major in college, fell back in love with kind of a subject that I had been so interested in really since I was a kid.
In front of a class.
I teach 2 subjects. I just started my 2nd semester. It's going pretty well.
Students review material.
The quiz is open note, so hope you took good notes. A really significant challenge of being blind is the issue of transportation because I can't drive. She says that the worst thing about dating me is that she has to do all the driving, which
100%.
I think is a good thing. That's the worst thing.
She drives.
I want him to feel independent. I don't want him to feel like he's ever a burden on me.
I need to rely on others for that basic requirement of life.
Color photos.
I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I've hiked across the Grand Canyon. I've swam from Alcatraz. I've thrown out the first pitch at a baseball game. But there are things that I just plainly can't do. I still can't drive myself to the grocery store.
A Waymo
If
van.
Max had the option of self-driving cars, he wouldn't have to rely on anybody.
Pressing a start ride.
Self-driving cars can add that freedom that I don't have.
Driving,
from a self-esteem level, that'd be great, and from a practical level, it could be life-changing.
How's it feel to you? Is this better than my driving?
Yeah.
He grins.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Let's talk self-driving. See more at letstalkselfdriving.com. Waymo, Foundation for Blind Children.
Thank you to Max and Lillian for allowing us to share your story. It's quite sweet. I'll go ahead and introduce our panelists. For today's discussion, we're joined by Max's dad, who you saw in the video, Marc Ashton, who's also the CEO of Foundation for Blind Children in Phoenix, and Sam Kansara, a senior product manager at Waymo, who specializes in user experience. So thank you both for being here today.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks for having us.
Marc, the Foundation for Blind Children is one of the first nonprofits to join Let's Talk in 2017. Can you tell us a little bit about what FBC does and why you decided to join Let's Talk?
Sure. The Foundation for Blind Children, we are a school for blind children and adults, and we start them at the day they're born. We start working with them, teaching mom and dad how to teach their child. And all through life, we're there to help them learn in a different way. You and I learn through our eyes, and when you don't have proper vision, you need to learn different ways. And so we teach our kids and our adults how to do everything that you and I do, from getting to and from work to learning how to get an A in school to putting on makeup and shaving. So everything that you and I do every day, we kind of teach them in a special way.
Awesome. And so when you had the opportunity to join Let's Talk, why did you decide to join?
Well, we're very good at what we do. We've been able to teach students how to read with Braille. We teach them how to use their computers with talking software. We've taught them how to socialize and do everything they can. The only obstacle we haven't overcome is transportation. And yes, there are public transportation options, hailing transportation options, but all those involve relying on somebody else. And most of the side of the world do not have to rely on somebody else to get around. And so when Waymo came along, we're like, this may be the last solution we're looking for.
And Sam, you work on developing that solution at Waymo. I imagine you have to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the user when you're designing this ride-hailing experience that Marc mentioned. How does the product team at Waymo approach making its ride-hailing service accessible for people who are blind?
Sure. So thanks for that question. Accessibility is something we care deeply about at Waymo. Our mission is to help improve road safety and mobility, and that obviously extends to people with additional needs as well. So at a high level, I'd describe our approach as it's fundamentally ingrained in how we actually design our rider experience. We need to make sure we consider from the beginning all users with additional needs, or for all needs actually. And an example of that is not just relying on either just visual or just audio cues to communicate important information. But to kind of dig into a bit on how we are approaching that for low vision, I can say two broad approaches that we take. The first is we clearly conduct user research on a regular basis with low vision riders. So we have them use our app, ride in our cars, talk to our support team, and this inevitably identifies opportunities for improvement, which we then add to our roadmap. But the second approach we also take is we gather feedback from internal riders that are low vision. So as Waymo and part of the Alphabet family, we collaborate closely with the accessibility community at Google, which is very large, and we get valuable feedback from them throughout the development lifecycle. And I'll give you an example of how this works in practice. So through research and anecdotal feedback from our riders, we know that one of the largest challenges low vision riders face is finding the car pickup. So to address this, we built out a feature that lets these riders use the mobile app to honk the car's horn, making it easier to locate the car. We had our internal low vision riders test out this feature, and they gave us great feedback, which we incorporated into the design. But the most interesting part of this was that once we launched it, we not only got positive feedback from low vision riders, but we also got positive feedback from riders that didn't have low vision. It turns out they also find this feature useful. And that for us is something that's very important. It's a great example of this concept of universal design and how do we actually make sure that we're building experiences that can benefit everyone while also making sure we address the needs of certain users that may have those. So the last part I'd highlight is that of this approach is that we don't actually just stop clearly with one feature. I'm hoping that this feature that I just mentioned is the first of many. This is part of what the process of learning and iteration is all about. We'll continue to run research, we'll learn about challenges and develop improvements. It's a cycle.
So can you actually walk us through what the process looks like? You know, if I'm, someone who is hailing a ride through Waymo's app, and I am visually impaired, what does it look like for me?
Sure. Happy to walk you through that flow and highlight some of the things that we've done in this space. So you mentioned the app. Let's start with the app, right? That's typically a user's first direct experience with our product. And so first and foremost, it's important for us that our app follows the standard accessibility guidelines, including support for screen readers and high contrast. We go through an audit process with our Google community to make sure that all the standard practices that Google applies to its products that have billions of users are very clearly also followed with the things that we do. So that's important to us. We also have a number of settings that allow all riders to adjust the experience based on their needs and preferences. So like the example I mentioned, which is surfacing options that might help you locate the vehicle. Also in the app, it's important for us that we educate and we have in the form of riding tips to ensure that our riders understand how Waymo might be a little bit different than other services they may use. And so that's also important about setting expectations. So that's just the app. Next, when you're getting picked up, we've added options for people that may have low mobility to ensure that the vehicle is always going to pick them up on the side that's closest to the curb. For some users, crossing the street may be difficult, and we want to make sure that we respect that, obviously. And once you're in the car, we have options for turning on what we call assistive audio cues that can help low vision riders understand more about their journey as they progress. So that we can narrate a little bit more about why the car might be doing what it's doing, for example, if it's yielding to a pedestrian. We also have rider support that's clearly available at any time, and we even make sure that the rider support interaction is also accessible. So not only can you talk to a rider support agent via the phone or the in-car system, you can also use multiple channels like chat through the app as well. So over time, we'll continue to add more features, but that's hopefully gives you some flavor of the things that we're doing today.
So Marc, hearing all of those features, can you tell me what stands out to you as most beneficial to the community that your organization serves, and kind of what your feedback is?
Well, obviously the biggest benefit is giving freedom to our people, our kids and adults who want to drive, right? And they can't because of their vision loss. So just being able to have a Waymo pull up to your house or your workplace is the biggest benefit. But the other thing that Sam was mentioning, which is, and it's a strange phenomenon in our world, that features that we need to function, like audible cues, etc., everyone needs. And it's just like talking text to talk, right? We all, or talk to text, we all start using that feature now. And it was, I don't know why it was designed, but maybe it was designed for the visually impaired community, but we all use it. So these features that Sam mentioned, I mean, just the information in the car alone, just for the car to tell you, hey, I'm slowing down for a pedestrian, that's information you and I just get just by looking out the front windshield. And to have that information to blind and visually impaired riders it's really powerful, and it calms everyone. It gives them a sense of comfort just to know what's going on around them, and nothing's going to be a surprise. I mean, Sam mentioned just the information that the app gives you even before your ride gets here, what to expect, etc. That's a big part of we don't want any surprises. None of us want surprises, regardless of our vision loss. And so the more information we can get through alternative means, the better. So those are incredible features.
I think really that's, important to think about too, safety and building trust among users, particularly those who have additional needs. Can you both talk a little bit about, what steps need to be taken to build trust around this emerging tech?
I'll start, Sam.
Go ahead.
How you build trust around this vehicle is you get in the vehicle and you ride in it, because it is so uneventful, and you realize there's nothing. What am I afraid of? And you suddenly realize halfway through your ride that you don't even realize there's nobody driving the car. It is just so. The curiosity factor is the most, is the biggest factor. But after that, you're just like, I can't believe this is just. I'm going from point A, point B uneventfully and safely and happily.
Yeah, so and from the Waymo point of view, we know that people that are riding in a Waymo, for them, it's most likely their first experience they've had with autonomous vehicle technology and learning about how it works. So for us, it's also important that we get them comfortable to ride in it that first time, as Marc was mentioning, right? So once you do experience it, we think that that's a very natural way of building trust, but how do we make sure that you feel comfortable getting in it the first time, and your first ride is also very clearly communicates that element of trust. So this is an overarching goal for when we think about the rider experience, particularly for the in-car experience. And the two broad parts of this as well from a design and product point of view is through transparency. So I've given a couple of examples, but how do we actually make sure that the rider feels like they have a full understanding of what's happening and why? These things it's meant to be about so that they can understand and recognize that, hey, the car has it all well under control, that this is going to be a great experience, that any important information they need to know, like they might be arriving at their destination soon, et cetera, are communicated in a very clearly understandable fashion. So that's important. Transparency and how we think about notifications is going to be the first part of that. The second is obviously through consistency. From trip to trip, you can have the same car, you can have the same experience via the app, and same experience in the car itself. And so that when you continue to build that element of familiarity, that also is going to continue to bring this this sense of I know what to expect between trip to trip, which I think is also going to be important from a building trust component.
So I know we're talking about consistency, but I am curious, Sam and Marc, when you guys first started getting involved with this technology, were there any surprises for you, once you took your first ride or started getting acquainted with kind of the tech?
Well, I've been in the vehicle a number of times now, and the biggest surprise, and everyone experiences when they first get in the vehicle, is first of all, there's a screen that shows you kind of what the car sees. And it is amazing what the car sees, and even things that we don't see. Someone walking between two vehicles, parallel, curbside parked vehicles, we don't see that, but the car definitely picked it up. The car picks up cones in the street, construction cones in the street. I was in the car one time and a landscaping vehicle was backing out into the street. It picked it up, went around it, and I was just like, it is amazing. And it's just a simple, once you're in it and you see what the car is seeing, you kind of say, oh, it's seeing more than I am, so I'll just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, I've been at Waymo for a few years now, and I'm going to skip the obvious one about what surprised me, which is how hard this is. So I'm seeing it from the inside. I have been surprised by, this is more complicated than perhaps you would envision from the outside. But and that's as a form of building respect for the work that the team is doing. But beyond that, the two areas that I would say have surprised me the most is, Marc alluded to a moment ago as well. The first time you ride in a driverless car, I could not stop but stare at that steering wheel turning on its own and watching the car navigate through traffic. It was fascinating. It was awe-inspiring. And the second and third time, I wasn't staring at the steering wheel anymore, but I continued to be amazed by how far the team has come. And the second point I'd highlight for me that was surprising is that I was excited when I joined about the opportunity that this had in terms of impacting transportation generally. As I got deeper in the space, the thing that I started having an appreciation for is that the technology and the work we're doing can actually have fundamental changes much more beyond just transportation. For example, how cities are organized, how they think about things like parking and traffic and congestion, the environmental impact caused by that. So I think that this space is going to drive lots of change, and I'm just excited to be part of that.
Switching gears just a little bit, given recent events, Marc, with transportation options shifting during the pandemic, how has this perhaps given the non-blind community a better understanding of what mobility is like for those who are visually impaired?
Well, I think for the visually impaired, mobility is freedom. We've talked about it before. It's the freedom to go where you want to when you want to go, right? And not rely on schedules or anything else, but just the freedom that everyone else has that drives. But this pandemic has created another phenomenon that none of us even realized 3 or 4 months ago, about having a stranger in the vehicle with you. And I know Waymo was not predicting a pandemic when they developed this, but the fact that you can get in a vehicle without anybody else and feel safe, and our safety, some of our staff and clients, their safety was, I'm a young lady and I don't want to get in a vehicle with a stranger to get from point A to B, and that was our biggest safety feature of the Waymo at 4 months ago. Now there's no contagion in this car when I get in the car, and I can go safely from point A to point B. And it's just amazing how quickly the world changes and how innovative that Waymo has been to kind of was there when we needed it. And hopefully it'll grow quicker.
In that same kind of vein, Sam, how has the pandemic affected what Waymo's product team is working on, while the ride-hailing service is, on pause right now in Phoenix?
Yeah, so we've been very busy. So first and foremost, last month, we did resume driving operations in the Phoenix area after temporary pausing to making sure that the health and safety of our team was obviously well established as we navigate COVID-19. So we're proud we're coming back online. Everything is, we're confident that the practices that we put in place keep your team safe. We're not yet offering, as you just alluded we're not offering rides to our Waymo One riders yet, but we hope to do that soon. We've used this time for predominantly two things. One is continuing the development of the features, the kind of things that we talked about. So our team is full speed in continuing to develop these features. So we're excited to make those available to riders soon and when we resume. And the second is that we are also using this time to continue research across a number of topics, so that we're now synthesizing those and getting ready also for resuming our riders. And the research is very interesting. One is, we have a number of specific questions that we've continued to explore, but the current scenario has also change some patterns. So it's important that we understand what that impact is and what opportunities it creates for us.
Could you expand on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few examples are, people are clearly traveling differently than they used to. So how does that impact the kind of roadmap of product features that we would want to potentially develop as part of that? And Marc was alluding to, the needs from, users that may have low vision. Again, how do we actually, now that we know that these behaviors are changing, it can change how we prioritize as well. So we have to put all these signals together, both internal and external. And so this is an interesting opportunity for us to take that broader look at things and make sure that we're building things in the right order.
Got it. So I want to switch again to future looking, Marc, and in the ideal scenario, what do you imagine self-driving vehicles being like in the future? What's that forward look for you?
Our dream is that self-driving cars are the equalizer. Everyone uses a self-driving car. Everyone walks out the front door, hails it, gets in, goes to work, goes to school, goes to the grocery store. And it is uneventful. It is equal among everybody. And it's just, it's a tool. And it'll be, no offense to Waymo, but it'll be minimized as a tool. It is not a glamour thing. It is just, I got to get to point A to point B, and this is the most efficient and safest way to do it. And I can't wait for that.
Sam, are there any future features that you're working on that you would like to see added to the user experience in the future that you can share?
Yeah, so I was just mentioning that is something we're obviously full steam ahead on. And so we have many things right now that we're working on that I think riders will love once we do obviously make those available to riders. The one thing that I'd highlight, because it's, I think, very relevant to this conversation in particular, is that it's important to us that riders are fully informed if their trip might have additional walks, potentially either before pickup or after drop off. So we're adding some new messaging in our app and car screen to highlight this information. So as an example, if there's a walk from the parking lot where we drop you off to the building that you've indicated you want to go to, we could highlight that in our passenger screen and say, here's, you have a 2-minute walk afterwards, and here's what that walk looks like. And then also make that available to you via the app when you leave. So the meta point that we've learned is that users' point of view is that the trip is not just the part when they're in the car. It actually is it's all the steps that are involved from the moment that they leave wherever they're starting to the moment they arrive at their destination. And if that includes some walk on either side or any other element of that trip, we want to make sure that's available to users, and so that they're fully informed about it from the beginning and that we help them on that whole journey. And I think that this is, again, going back to this construct of the universal design. We think this will obviously help people with additional needs, but it'll help all riders. And so we're excited to bring that to riders in the near future.
Thank you both. Marc, before we wrap up, where can people go if they want to learn more about Foundation for Blind Children?
Just go look up some videos about Mac Ashton. You'll know everything about us and you want to know. But you can go to our website, seeitourway.org, and learn everything you want about us. But it's this is bigger than Foundation for Blind Children. I think it's bigger than Waymo. We are changing the world here, and it's happening in front of our eyes. I mean, no pun intended. And it's exciting. And I like I said, I hope it comes very, very quickly.
Thank you both for your time and your insights today. I really appreciate it. That's it for our discussion, and I encourage everyone to please visit letstalkselfdriving.com, where you can see the videos of Mac Ashton that proud dad Marc just mentioned, and you can subscribe and learn about our upcoming panel discussions and our resources that we have available about this emerging technology. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and stay safe.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Sam.